Chapter 1. Stop waiting for motivation. Most people have been taught a dangerous lie. They believe that action comes after motivation. They think successful people wake up excited every morning. They imagine disciplined people are constantly inspired. They assume productive people simply feel different. They don't. That's the first truth you must accept. Motivation is emotional. Emotions change. They rise. They fall. They disappear without warning. If your actions depend on your emotions, your progress will always be unstable. Consistency is different. Consistency doesn't ask how you feel. Consistency asks one question. Did you show up today? That's the key. You have a choice. You can spend your life waiting to feel ready, or you can become the kind of person who acts whether you feel ready or not. Those are two completely different lives. Think about how many goals people postpone. I'll start exercising when I feel motivated. I'll begin writing next month. I'll save money after life becomes less stressful. I'll learn that skill when I have more confidence. Weeks become months. Months become years. Nothing changes. Not because they lacked intelligence. Not because they lacked opportunity. Because they kept waiting for an emotion that was never designed to lead their life. You don't need motivation. You need movement. Repeat that to yourself. You don't need motivation. You need movement. Movement creates momentum. Momentum creates confidence. Confidence creates consistency. And consistency changes everything. Most people have the process backwards. They believe confidence comes first. In reality, action comes first. Every single time. No athlete waits until they feel like training before becoming stronger. No musician masters an instrument by practicing only on exciting days. No successful entrepreneur builds a company by working only when inspiration appears. They move first. The feeling catches up later. That is how transformation actually works. You have a choice. You can continue obeying your emotions, or you can train your emotions to follow your actions. That's the difference between ordinary people and extraordinary people. It's not about motivation. It's about discipline. Imagine two people beginning the exact same journey. The first person is highly motivated. On Monday, they work for 6 hours. They are excited. They tell everyone about their new goal. They watch videos. They buy equipment. They make big promises. Then Tuesday arrives. Energy drops. Life becomes busy. They skip one day. Then another. Soon, the excitement disappears. The project disappears with it. Now imagine the second person. No dramatic speeches. No emotional excitement. No perfect morning routine. They simply work for 1 hour. Every day. Rain or sunshine. Good mood or bad mood. Busy or relaxed. Inspired or tired. 1 hour. Every single day. Who wins after 1 week? Maybe the motivated person. Who wins after 1 year? The consistent person. Every time. Because ordinary daily actions quietly defeat emotional intensity. The world celebrates dramatic moments. Life rewards repeated ones. That's the key. The greatest advantage you can build is reliability. Can you rely on yourself? Can you trust yourself to continue after the excitement fades? Can you become someone whose actions are stronger than today's emotions? That question matters more than talent, more than intelligence, more than luck. Because success is built on reliability, not intensity. Look around at the strongest people you know. They probably aren't the loudest. They probably aren't the most naturally gifted, but they keep showing up. Again, again, and again. That is their secret. Not magic. Not perfect genetics. Not endless motivation. Just repetition. Most people underestimate how powerful repetition becomes over time. One workout seems small. One page written seems insignificant. One chapter read appears meaningless. One healthy meal changes almost nothing. But repeat those actions hundreds of times. Everything changes. Your body changes. Your mind changes. Your confidence changes. Your identity changes. That's why today's action matters so much. Not because today alone changes your future. Because today teaches tomorrow who you are. Every action is a vote. Every repeated decision is another piece of evidence. You are constantly proving something to yourself. Either, I am someone who follows through, or I am someone who quits. You decide. Every single day. You have a choice. Many people believe missing one day doesn't matter. They're partially right. One day rarely destroys success. But here's the danger. One missed day teaches your brain that skipping is acceptable. One excuse becomes easier to repeat. Soon, one missed day becomes a missed week. Then, a missed month. Eventually, your habit disappears. That's why consistency must become sacred. Protect it. Respect it. Defend it. Not because perfection matters, but because identity matters. Every time you keep your promise to yourself, you strengthen self-respect. Every time you break your promise without reason, you weaken it. Self-confidence is not built by positive thinking. It is built by accumulated evidence. Evidence that says, I do what I said I would do. That's real confidence, not empty affirmations, not temporary excitement, repeated action, again and again. You don't need anyone else's permission to begin. You don't need ideal conditions. You don't need the perfect schedule. You don't need every answer before taking the first step. Start with what you have. Start where you are. Start today. Because tomorrow will ask the same question. Will you show up? That's the only question that truly matters. Remember the philosophy that will guide every chapter of this audiobook. Every day counts. Every repetition matters. Every excuse has a cost. Miss one opportunity to improve, and tomorrow becomes slightly harder. Keep one promise to yourself, and tomorrow becomes slightly easier. Small decisions never stay small. They accumulate. Your future is nothing more than accumulated daily choices. That's the key. So stop asking whether you feel motivated. Start asking whether you're committed. Commitment survives bad days. Commitment survives boredom. Commitment survives disappointment. Motivation rarely does. You don't need motivation. You need movement. You don't need excitement. You need consistency. You don't need perfect conditions. You need today's action. Because showing up today is how you earn tomorrow. This chapter has shown you why waiting is the enemy of progress and why consistency will always defeat temporary emotion. Once you stop waiting for motivation, you're finally ready to understand what truly creates extraordinary results over time. Chapter 2. Small Days. Build extraordinary lives. Most people misunderstand how greatness is built. They imagine dramatic breakthroughs, one incredible decision, one lucky opportunity, one perfect moment that changes everything overnight. But real life rarely works that way. The strongest bodies are not built in one workout. The wealthiest investors do not become wealthy after one deposit. The wisest people are not transformed by reading one book. The most disciplined individuals are not created in one extraordinary day. Extraordinary lives are built by ordinary days. Repeated, again and again. That's the truth most people refuse to accept because it sounds too simple. But simple does not mean easy. Simple means proven. Every remarkable achievement begins with something almost invisible. One page, $1, one workout, one conversation, one decision, one small promise kept. The problem is that people underestimate small actions because they measure today's results instead of tomorrow's transformation. They ask, what difference will one day make? The better question is, what difference will 1,000 days make? That's the key. You have a choice. You can judge today's effort by today's reward, or you can judge today's effort by the person it is slowly creating. Those are very different ways of living. Imagine someone deciding to learn a new language. On the first day, they memorize 5 words. 5 words. It doesn't feel impressive. By the end of the first week, perhaps 35 words. Still nothing extraordinary. After 1 month, maybe 150 words. Progress feels slow. They wonder if it is even worth continuing. Many people quit here, not because they cannot learn, because they cannot see enough progress to satisfy their emotions. But imagine they continue. Every day, 5 words. Nothing dramatic. After 1 year, they have learned well over 1,000 words. Now, conversations become possible. Suddenly, people say, "You learn languages so quickly." No, they simply stayed long enough for invisible progress to become visible. That is how consistency works. Now think about saving money. Someone saves $5 every day. $5 seems insignificant. Many people spend that much without thinking. 1 coffee, 1 unnecessary purchase, 1 impulsive decision. But $5 every single day becomes $35 every week. Hundreds every few months. Thousands after enough time. The habit matters more than the amount, because the habit teaches discipline. Money grows because behavior changes first. Again, invisible progress becomes visible only after repetition. Now think about exercise. 1 workout rarely changes the mirror. You leave the gym. You look exactly the same. You eat 1 healthy meal. Nothing changes immediately. You go for 1 walk. Still nothing obvious. This is where most people become discouraged. They confuse invisible with ineffective. Those are not the same thing. Your muscles are adapting. Your heart is becoming stronger. Your endurance is improving. Your discipline is growing. The mirror simply hasn't caught up yet. Results are delayed. Growth is not. That's the key. Never confuse delayed results with wasted effort. Now consider reading. Read 10 pages today. You won't suddenly become wiser tonight. Read 10 pages tomorrow. Still no dramatic difference. But continue reading 10 pages every day for an entire year. You finish thousands of pages, dozens of books, thousands of ideas, new perspectives, new skills, new ways of thinking. Eventually someone asks, "How do you know so much?" They see the knowledge. They never saw the quiet mornings, the peaceful evenings, the 10 pages, day after day, year after year. Small actions become massive outcomes. Repeat that. Small actions become massive outcomes. Again. Small actions become massive outcomes. The world celebrates the finished building. Almost nobody notices the laying of each brick, but remove enough bricks. The building never exists. Daily habits are those bricks. Every action seems almost meaningless by itself. Together, they build your future. This is why consistency often feels boring, because repetition is rarely exciting. Doing the same healthy behavior every morning doesn't create headlines. Showing up for work every day isn't glamorous. Practicing your craft every evening doesn't impress social media. The process looks ordinary. The outcome looks extraordinary. People love watching success. Very few people love repeating the behaviors that create it. That is why so few achieve lasting excellence. Everyone wants the harvest. Few enjoy planting seeds. Everyone wants confidence. Few enjoy practicing when nobody applauds. Everyone wants success. Few enjoy becoming the kind of person who earns it. Consistency is often boring, until one day it becomes beautiful. People love stories about overnight success. Those stories are comforting because they suggest success can happen quickly. But what they call overnight success usually hides years of invisible work. The author whose book suddenly becomes a bestseller probably wrote every day for years. The athlete who dominates the championship likely spent thousands of lonely mornings training. The entrepreneur celebrated on magazine covers probably survived years of failure nobody remembers. The public sees the breakthrough. They never see the preparation. You only witness the final chapter. You rarely witness the hundreds of pages written before it. That misunderstanding causes enormous frustration. People compare someone else's public success with their own private beginning. That comparison destroys motivation. Stop making it. Instead, compare today's effort with yesterday's effort. Nothing else matters. You have a choice. You can chase dramatic moments, or you can master ordinary ones. That's the key. The truth is that consistency often feels unrewarding in the beginning. There are no fireworks, no standing ovations, no instant transformations, just another day, another repetition, another quiet promise kept. That is exactly why it works, because very few people are willing to continue when nothing exciting is happening. Your greatest advantage is not talent, it is patience. Patience allows repetition. Repetition creates mastery. Mastery produces extraordinary results. Small actions become massive outcomes. Never forget those words. When you cannot see progress, repeat them. When you become impatient, repeat them. When you feel tempted to quit, repeat them. Small actions become massive outcomes. So stop waiting for giant breakthroughs. Stop believing your life must change dramatically tomorrow. Instead, ask yourself one simple question. What is today's smallest responsibility? Perhaps it is reading one chapter. Perhaps it is writing one page. Perhaps it is taking a walk instead of staying on the couch. Perhaps it is saving $10. Perhaps it is making one important phone call. Perhaps it is simply showing up. Do that. Then repeat it tomorrow. Master today's responsibility before worrying about next year's success. Most people fail because they constantly chase bigger opportunities while neglecting smaller responsibilities. Yet your future is hidden inside today's smallest decision. Every great achievement is nothing more than small victories connected over time. One good day is encouraging. 2 good days create momentum. 10 good days build confidence. 100 good days reshape your identity. 1,000 good days transform your life. 1 good day is never enough. But many good days change everything. That is the philosophy of this audiobook. Every day counts. Every repetition matters. Every excuse has a cost. Protect today's effort. Respect today's opportunity. Because today's ordinary action is quietly becoming tomorrow's extraordinary life. You now understand that greatness is never created in a single dramatic leap. It is built through thousands of small decisions that compound over time. But consistency becomes much easier when success no longer depends on willpower alone. Chapter 3. Build systems. Instead of depending on willpower. Willpower is overrated. That statement surprises most people. They believe strong people simply have more self-control. They imagine disciplined individuals wake up every morning overflowing with determination. They think success belongs to those with incredible mental strength. But look closer. The most disciplined people are not constantly using more willpower. They are using less, because they built systems that make good decisions automatic. That's the difference. Willpower asks, "What should I do today?" A system already knows the answer. That's the key. You have a choice. You can spend every day debating whether you should act, or you can remove the debate completely. Most people lose before they even begin because they waste energy making the same decisions over and over again. Should I work out today? Should I write today? Should I study today? Should I save money today? Should I wake up early tomorrow? Every decision drains mental energy. Every negotiation creates another opportunity for excuses. Soon, the mind becomes tired. When the mind becomes tired, comfort wins, not because you are weak, because decision fatigue is real. This is why discipline becomes easier when routines replace choices. Imagine driving home after work. Have you ever arrived without remembering every turn you made? You stopped at traffic lights. You turned at intersections. You parked your car. Yet you barely thought about it. Why? Because repetition transformed a conscious decision into an automatic behavior. That is exactly what habits do. They reduce mental resistance. The first time you wake up at 6 in the morning, it feels difficult. The 100th time, it feels normal. The first workout demands effort. The 200th workout becomes part of your identity. The first page you write feels intimidating. Eventually, opening your laptop and writing becomes as natural as brushing your teeth. The action didn't become easier because life changed. It became easier because your brain stopped treating it as something unusual. Habits save energy. Habits protect consistency. Habits quietly build extraordinary lives. That's the key. Successful people understand something most people ignore. Every repeated decision should eventually become a repeated routine. They automate good behavior. Think about brushing your teeth. Do you wake up every morning and argue with yourself? Do you spend 20 minutes deciding whether oral hygiene is worth today's effort? Of course not. You simply do it. The habit became stronger than your emotions. Now imagine your most important goals working the same way. Imagine exercise becoming automatic. Imagine reading becoming automatic. Imagine writing, practicing, saving, learning, and creating becoming automatic. How much easier would progress become? That is exactly what systems accomplish. They eliminate unnecessary thinking. Many people believe freedom means doing whatever you want. Real freedom is different. Real freedom comes from no longer fighting yourself every day. When discipline becomes automatic, your mind becomes available for bigger challenges. Instead of wasting energy deciding whether to act, you invest energy improving the quality of your work. That is how high performers operate. It's not about stronger willpower. It's about smarter systems. Consider the world's greatest athletes. People watch them perform on championship day. They assume greatness appears under pressure. But greatness was built long before the competition began. The athlete wakes up. Breakfast is scheduled. Training begins at the same hour. Recovery follows the same process. Sleep happens at nearly the same time every night. Their excellence is supported by ordinary routines repeated thousands of times. They don't wake up asking, "Do I feel like training today?" Training is already part of the day. The decision was made months ago, perhaps years ago. They simply begin. Now think about successful entrepreneurs. Many people imagine business owners living exciting, unpredictable lives. Some do. The most consistently successful ones usually don't. They review priorities every morning. They schedule deep work. They answer important decisions during their highest energy hours. They protect time for thinking. Their calendar becomes a system, because they know something important. What gets scheduled gets done. What depends on memory usually disappears. Again, they don't negotiate. They simply begin. Now consider musicians. An audience sees a flawless performance. What they never see is the repetition. The scales practiced every morning. The same warm-up. The same breathing exercises. The same technical drills. The same corrections. Over and over. The musician doesn't wait for inspiration to practice. Practice creates inspiration. Not the other way around. The routine came first. The mastery followed. Writers live by the same principle. People often believe writers wait until brilliant ideas suddenly appear. Professional writers know better. Ideas come during work, not before it. Many sit at the same desk, at the same hour, every single day. Some days the words flow. Some days they struggle. It doesn't matter. They show up anyway, because they know consistency produces creativity far more reliably than waiting for inspiration. They simply begin. Notice the pattern. Athletes, entrepreneurs, musicians, writers, different professions, different goals, the same philosophy. They don't negotiate with themselves every morning. They don't ask permission from their emotions. They don't wait for perfect conditions. They simply begin. You have a choice. You can keep asking yourself whether today feels like the right day. Or you can become someone whose routine answers that question automatically. That's the key. So how do you build a system? Keep it simple. Complex systems usually fail. Simple systems survive. Start with 3 anchors. The same time, the same place, the same first action. Let's begin with time. Choose a consistent hour whenever possible. If you exercise at 6 in the morning today, then at noon tomorrow, then at 9 at night the following day, your brain never develops a rhythm. Consistency loves predictability. Your body begins preparing for repeated behaviors when they happen regularly. Time becomes a trigger. Now choose the same place. Environment shapes behavior more than most people realize. A specific chair becomes your reading chair. A particular desk becomes your writing desk. A certain corner of the gym becomes your training space. Your surroundings begin reminding you what to do. Eventually, entering that place activates the habit before conscious thought even begins. Finally, choose the same first action. Never make starting complicated. If your goal is writing, perhaps the first action is opening your document. If your goal is fitness, perhaps the first action is putting on your training shoes. If your goal is reading, perhaps the first action is placing your book on the table every night before bed. The first action should be almost impossible to avoid. Because starting is usually the hardest part. Once movement begins, momentum follows. Remember this sequence. Same time, same place, same first action. Repeat it. Same time, same place, same first action. These 3 anchors remove uncertainty. They remove hesitation. They remove negotiation. Most importantly, they reduce the number of decisions your brain must make. And fewer decisions mean fewer opportunities for excuses. Never underestimate the power of reducing friction. People often believe success requires adding something extraordinary. Sometimes success simply requires removing obstacles. Remove unnecessary choices. Remove confusion. Remove hesitation. Make the right action easier than the wrong one. That is how systems quietly outperform motivation, because motivation changes with your mood. Systems continue regardless of your mood. One difficult day cannot destroy a strong routine. One bad mood cannot defeat a powerful habit. One stressful week cannot erase a well-designed system. Consistency loves routine. Say it again. Consistency loves routine. When life becomes chaotic, routine becomes your anchor. When emotions become unpredictable, routine becomes your guide. When motivation disappears, routine keeps moving. That is why routines are so powerful. They protect progress from emotion. They protect discipline from excuses. They protect your future from today's temporary feelings. Never forget that. You don't rise to the level of your intentions. You rise to the level of your systems. Every successful life is supported by invisible routines that nobody applauds. Build those routines. Protect them. Repeat them, because every extraordinary achievement begins with one ordinary system repeated long enough. You have now learned that discipline becomes easier when good behavior no longer depends on daily motivation or endless self-control. Strong systems create strong habits, and strong habits create consistent action. But even the best system can feel discouraging when results remain hidden. Chapter 4. Show up, even when progress feels invisible. One of the hardest moments in any journey is not failure. It is uncertainty. Failure gives you something to respond to. Uncertainty gives you nothing. You work. You sacrifice. You stay disciplined. You repeat the right habits. And yet, nothing seems to change. The scale barely moves. The business barely grows. The audience barely notices. The skill still feels ordinary. The results remain invisible. This is the moment where most dreams quietly disappear, not because people are incapable, because they cannot tolerate delayed rewards. They mistake silence for failure. They mistake slow progress for no progress. They mistake invisible growth for wasted effort. That is the trap. And if you want to build an extraordinary life, you must escape it. That's the key. You have a choice. You can allow your eyes to determine whether you continue, or you can allow your principles to determine whether you continue. Those are two very different ways to live. Most people have unknowingly trained themselves to expect immediate feedback. They send a message and expect an instant reply. They order something online and expect it tomorrow. They post a photo and immediately check how many people liked it. Modern life rewards speed. Real growth does not. Real growth has always been patient. Real growth asks for faith before it offers proof. That is why so many people struggle. They apply the mindset of instant gratification to goals that require long-term commitment. They expect 10 years of transformation after 10 days of effort. When that doesn't happen, they become discouraged. Then they quit. Not because the method failed, because their expectations failed. You don't need faster results. You need deeper patience. Remember that. Patience is not passive. Patience is active persistence. It is continuing the work even when the reward has not yet arrived. That is real strength. Imagine walking into a gym for the first time. You finish a difficult workout. You sweat. Your muscles ache. You leave exhausted. The next morning, you look in the mirror. Nothing has changed. The same body. The same reflection. Does that mean yesterday's workout was useless? Of course not. Your muscles have already begun adapting. Tiny fibers are repairing themselves. Your nervous system is learning. Your heart is becoming stronger. Changes have already begun. They simply cannot be seen yet. Growth started before evidence appeared. That is true in every area of life. Learn one new skill today. You still feel like a beginner. Read one chapter. you still don't feel significantly wiser. Save a small amount of money. Your financial life appears almost identical. Practice your craft for one afternoon. You still make mistakes. The visible result hasn't changed, but you have changed. Slightly. Quietly. Almost invisibly. Those tiny changes accumulate beneath the surface. The problem is that people judge progress too early. Imagine baking bread. You place dough into the oven. Would you remove it after 3 minutes because it doesn't look finished? No. You understand that some processes require time. Yet people constantly interrupt their own growth because they refuse to wait long enough. They abandon healthy habits after 2 weeks. They quit businesses after a few months. They stop learning because improvement feels slow, not realizing they were often closest to the breakthrough. That's the key. Growth is happening long before results appear. Never forget that sentence. Growth is happening long before results appear. The greatest transformations are usually invisible in the beginning. Think about planting a seed. From the outside, nothing seems to happen. The ground looks exactly the same, day after day, week after week. Someone walking past might conclude that nothing is growing, but beneath the surface, everything is changing. The seed breaks open. Tiny roots begin searching for water. They spread deeper into the earth. They strengthen. They anchor themselves. None of it is visible, yet every bit of it is essential. Imagine if the seed became impatient. Imagine if it said, "I've been underground for weeks. Nothing is happening. I should stop growing." It would never become a tree. Nature teaches a lesson that many people ignore. Roots always come before branches. Foundation always comes before expansion. Strength always develops before visibility. Your life follows the same law. Before your success becomes visible, your character is growing. Before your confidence becomes obvious, your discipline is developing. Before your opportunities expand, your abilities are improving. The roots are forming. Keep watering them. Do not dig them up every week just to check whether they are growing. Trust the process. Many people destroy their own progress because they constantly seek reassurance. Am I improving? Is this working? Should I switch strategies? Should I quit and try something else? Sometimes those questions are necessary. Most of the time, they are symptoms of impatience. If you planted the right seed, in the right soil, and continue caring for it, your responsibility is not to panic. Your responsibility is to remain consistent. Success is often delayed, not denied. Repeat that. Success is often delayed, not denied. Delay is not rejection. Delay is preparation. Some goals require you to become someone new before they arrive. If success appeared immediately, many people wouldn't have the character to keep it. That is why the waiting period matters. The waiting period is where discipline is tested. Anyone can work when rewards are immediate. Few continue when rewards are invisible. Those few eventually separate themselves from everyone else, because while others quit, they quietly continue. You have a choice. You can measure progress every single day and become frustrated. Or you can measure commitment every single day and become stronger. Commitment is always under your control. Results are not. Control what you can control. Release what you cannot. That is emotional maturity. Think about a sculptor working on a block of marble. Strike after strike. Dust falls. Tiny fragments disappear. For days, perhaps weeks, the stone still looks ordinary. An observer might wonder whether anything meaningful is happening. But every strike matters. Each one removes something unnecessary. Each one brings the hidden masterpiece closer to the surface. Success works the same way. Every workout removes weakness. Every book removes ignorance. Every difficult conversation removes fear. Every disciplined choice removes an old limitation. Transformation is rarely explosive. It is subtractive, slow, quiet, patient. Most people never witness this stage because they leave too early. They stop carving before the sculpture appears. Don't make that mistake. The greatest danger is not working hard. The greatest danger is abandoning the process because visible proof hasn't arrived yet. Remember who you are becoming, not just what you are building. Your habits are strengthening your identity long before they strengthen your reputation. Nobody may notice your effort today. That doesn't mean today's effort lacks value. The world often recognizes success only after years of invisible preparation. People admire the harvest. They overlook the seasons spent cultivating the field. That should not discourage you. It should free you. Because you no longer need immediate applause. You no longer need constant validation. You don't need their permission to continue. You need your own commitment. That is enough. Every invisible day is building visible success later. One quiet morning of practice matters. One unnoticed workout matters. One disciplined evening matters. One chapter read matters. $1 saved matters. One promise kept matters. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is meaningless. Everything compounds. Even when you cannot yet see it, especially when you cannot yet see it. Trust the process you cannot yet see. Say it again. Trust the process you cannot yet see. When doubt appears, repeat those words. When impatience whispers that nothing is changing, repeat those words. When comparison makes you question your progress, repeat those words. Trust the process you cannot yet see. Because one day, what was invisible will become impossible to ignore. People will call your success sudden. They will say you were fortunate. They will wonder how everything changed so quickly. You will know the truth. It didn't happen overnight. It happened one invisible day at a time. You now understand one of the greatest tests of discipline. Continuing without immediate evidence. Those who trust the unseen process eventually enjoy the visible results that others never reach. But believing in the process is only part of the journey. The next challenge is learning how to recover when you inevitably stumble. Chapter 5. Become someone who never misses twice. There is a dangerous belief that stops more people than failure ever could. It sounds like this. I already messed up. I missed my workout. I skipped my morning routine. I broke my diet. I missed a week. I've already ruined my progress. So they quit. Not because of the first mistake, because of the second decision, the decision to stop. That is where dreams die, not in failure, in abandonment. You need to understand something that can completely change the way you approach discipline. Everyone slips. Everyone. Every athlete. Every entrepreneur. Every writer. Every musician. Every successful person you admire has missed a day. They have made mistakes. They have broken routines. They have experienced setbacks. The difference is not that they never failed. The difference is that they never allowed failure to become their identity. That's the key. You have a choice. You can treat one mistake as the end of the story, or you can treat it as one sentence in a much longer chapter. Those are completely different lives. Perfection is a fantasy. Recovery is a skill. Learn the skill. Protect the skill. Master the skill. Because your future will not be determined by how often you fall. It will be determined by how quickly you stand back up. Think about learning to walk. Every child falls. Hundreds of times. No parent watches a toddler fall and says, "I guess walking just isn't for you." No, they expect falling, because falling is part of learning. Somehow, as adults, we forget that lesson. We expect ourselves to succeed immediately. We expect flawless execution. We expect perfect discipline. The moment reality interrupts those expectations, disappointment takes over. Then comes guilt. Then shame. Then quitting. The mistake was never missing one day. The mistake was believing one day defined you. It doesn't. Your pattern defines you, not your exception. One missed workout does not make you unhealthy. One unhealthy meal does not make you unhealthy. One day without reading does not make you ignorant. One missed opportunity does not make you a failure. But repeated neglect eventually becomes identity. That is why your response matters more than your mistake. Failure is normal. Staying down is optional. Repeat those words. Failure is normal. Staying down is optional. Again, failure is normal. Staying down is optional. Every time life knocks you off course, you are presented with the same question. What happens next? That question matters far more than, what just happened? The past cannot be changed. The next decision can. Most people waste enormous amounts of energy punishing themselves. They replay the mistake. They criticize themselves. They promise to start over next Monday. Meanwhile, another day disappears. Real discipline doesn't waste time on self-punishment. Real discipline returns to work. Immediately. Imagine driving across the country. If you take one wrong turn, what do? Do you abandon the trip? Do you decide the destination is impossible? Of course not. You make a correction. Then you continue driving. Yet people treat personal growth differently. One wrong turn becomes an excuse to stop the journey. That makes no sense. Life is filled with wrong turns. Success belongs to those who keep correcting their direction, not those who never drift. That's the key. Consistency is not perfection. Let's destroy that myth forever. Consistency is not doing something perfectly every single day. Consistency is refusing to disappear. There is a huge difference. Perfection says, "I must never fail." Consistency says, "I will always return." Perfection is fragile. One mistake destroys it. Consistency is resilient. One mistake strengthens it because recovery becomes part of the habit. Perfection creates pressure. Consistency creates freedom. Perfection asks for impossible standards. Consistency asks for commitment. Choose commitment. Always. Think about a musician preparing for a concert. Some practice sessions are extraordinary. Others are terrible. Some days, every note feels effortless. Other days, every mistake becomes frustrating. The musician keeps practicing anyway, because mastery isn't built from perfect practice sessions. It is built from returning after imperfect ones. The same is true for an athlete. There are days when the body feels strong. There are days when every movement feels heavy. Champions train anyway, not because every workout is amazing, because every return strengthens identity. The writer experiences the same reality. Some mornings the words flow effortlessly. Other mornings every sentence feels impossible. Professional writers don't wait for perfect creativity. They show up. They write. Even if today's pages are not their best. Tomorrow offers another opportunity. Every profession teaches the same lesson. Recovery creates greatness, not perfection. One mistake should never become a lifestyle. Read that again. One mistake should never become a lifestyle. People rarely fail because of one poor decision. They fail because they repeat that poor decision until it becomes normal. One missed workout becomes 2. 2 become 10. Soon they say, "I used to exercise." One skipped reading session becomes months without opening a book. One unnecessary purchase becomes years of financial stress. One late morning becomes an identity built around procrastination. The first mistake was small. The repeated mistake became expensive. Every excuse has a cost. Always remember that. Now let's introduce one of the most powerful philosophies in this entire audiobook. Never miss twice. Simple words. Life-changing consequences. The rule is not that you must never fail. The rule is that failure never gets 2 consecutive victories. Miss one workout. Train tomorrow. Eat one unhealthy meal. Choose better at the next meal. Skip one day of writing. Write the following morning. Break one promise. Keep the next one. Never miss twice. This philosophy protects something incredibly valuable. Momentum. Momentum is easier to preserve than to rebuild. Think about pushing a heavy boulder. The first push requires tremendous effort. Once the boulder begins rolling, each additional push becomes easier. Stop pushing for too long, and the boulder stops. Now you must begin all over again. Habits work exactly the same way. Momentum reduces resistance. That is why protecting momentum matters more than protecting perfection. If you miss one day, your momentum slows. If you miss many days, momentum disappears. Your job is not to avoid every mistake. Your job is to prevent mistakes from multiplying. You have a choice. Protect your ego, or protect your momentum. Protecting your ego says, "I already failed." Protecting your momentum says, "I'm coming back tomorrow." Only one mindset produces lasting success. People often ask, how do disciplined people stay consistent for years? The answer is surprisingly simple. They don't expect perfection. They expect recovery. They know difficult seasons will come. Vacations, illness, unexpected emergencies, stress, loss, busy schedules. Life happens. The disciplined person prepares for this reality instead of pretending it doesn't exist. When disruption arrives, panic doesn't. They simply return. Again, again, and again. That return becomes automatic. That return becomes identity. Eventually, people describe them as incredibly disciplined, not because they never drifted, because they always came back. Imagine looking back over 10 years. Which life creates greater success? The person who performs perfectly for 1 month before quitting forever? Or the person who stumbles hundreds of times but always returns the next day? The answer is obvious. Consistency always wins. Recovery always beats perfection. One mistake is an event. Repeated surrender becomes a lifestyle. Choose carefully. Protect your future by protecting your next decision, not your last one. Remember the words that should echo in your mind every time you stumble. Return tomorrow. Always return tomorrow. Say it again. Return tomorrow. Always return tomorrow. No matter how difficult today becomes, return tomorrow. No matter how badly you performed today, return tomorrow. No matter how embarrassed you feel, return tomorrow. Because every comeback strengthens your character. Every comeback builds resilience. Every comeback proves that your commitment is stronger than your temporary failure. You're not defined by the days you fall. You're defined by the days you refuse to stay down. That is how extraordinary lives are built. 1 return at a time. You have now learned that discipline is not measured by perfect performance, but by your willingness to begin again after every setback. The people who achieve extraordinary things are not those who never fail. They are the ones who never allow failure to have the final word. As you continue this journey, you will discover that every repeated action is doing something even more powerful than creating results. It is creating you. Chapter 6. Your identity is built by repetition. The greatest change in your life will not happen when your income increases. It will not happen when you achieve a major goal. It will not happen when people finally recognize your hard work. The greatest change will happen the day you stop asking, "What do I want to accomplish?" and start asking, "Who am I becoming?" That single question changes everything, because goals can be completed. Identity lasts. A marathon ends. A business reaches its target. A debt gets paid. A degree is earned. But the person you become remains long after the goal has disappeared. That is why identity matters more than achievement. That's the key. You have a choice. You can spend your life chasing accomplishments, or you can build the kind of character that naturally produces accomplishments. One approach is temporary. The other transforms your entire future. Most people believe identity comes first. They think, when I become confident, I'll speak up. When I become disciplined, I'll wake up early. When I become successful, I'll think differently. Life works in the opposite direction. You act first. Then your identity begins to change. Every repeated action becomes evidence. Evidence of who you believe you are. Imagine a courtroom. Your identity is on trial every single day. Your actions are the evidence, not your intentions, not your dreams, not your promises. Your behavior, every decision you make quietly casts another vote. When you read instead of scrolling through distractions, you cast a vote. When you exercise despite being tired, you cast another vote. When you keep your promise after a difficult day, another vote is counted. No single vote decides the outcome, but thousands of votes eventually become undeniable. That is how identity is formed. Quietly, patiently, repeatedly. You become what you repeatedly practice. Repeat that. You become what you repeatedly practice. Again. You become what you repeatedly practice. If you repeatedly avoid difficult conversations, you practice avoidance. If you repeatedly procrastinate, you practice delay. If you repeatedly quit when things become uncomfortable, you practice surrender. Eventually, those behaviors stop feeling like actions. They begin feeling like personality. People say, "That's just who I am." But is it? Or is it simply what you've practiced the most? The good news is that the same principle works in your favor. Practice courage. You become courageous. Practice discipline. You become disciplined. Practice honesty. You become trustworthy. Practice consistency. You become reliable. Identity is not something you discover. It is something you build. Brick by brick. Decision by decision. Day by day. That's the key. Think about someone learning to play the piano. At first, every movement feels awkward. They don't think of themselves as a musician. They're simply trying to play a few notes correctly. Weeks pass. Months pass. Years pass. They continue practicing. One day someone asks, "What do you do?" Without hesitation, they answer, "I'm a musician." When did that happen? There was no magical day, no official ceremony, no dramatic transformation. Identity quietly caught up with repeated behavior. Exactly the same thing happens in every area of life. A runner becomes a runner by running. A writer becomes a writer by writing. A leader becomes a leader by leading. A disciplined person becomes disciplined by repeatedly acting with discipline, not by waiting to feel disciplined first. Your actions introduce you long before your words ever can. Many people spend years making promises to themselves. This time I'll change. Starting Monday, I'll be different. This year will finally be my year. The words sound powerful, but the brain doesn't believe promises. The brain believes evidence. Your subconscious is always watching. It notices what you repeatedly do, not what you repeatedly say. If every promise is followed by another excuse, your brain learns something dangerous. It learns that your words cannot be trusted. Eventually, you stop believing yourself. That is where confidence begins to disappear. People often misunderstand confidence. They think confidence comes from compliments, or success, or positive thinking. Those things may help for a moment. Real confidence comes from accumulated proof. Proof that you can trust yourself. Imagine two people making the same promise. Both decide to wake up at 6 every morning. The first person succeeds for 3 days. Then they quit. The second person wakes up at 6 for 100 consecutive mornings. Who trusts themselves more? Obviously the second person. Why? Because they have evidence. Confidence is built through kept promises. Every completed task strengthens self-trust. Every promise you keep says, I can depend on myself. Every difficult action completed tells your mind, I finish what I start. Every commitment honored becomes another brick in the foundation of confidence. Self-trust grows quietly, one promise at a time. Now consider the opposite. Every excuse weakens self-trust. Every unnecessary delay teaches your mind, my promises don't really matter. Every abandoned goal whispers, I probably won't finish. One excuse may seem harmless. Repeated excuses become an identity. That is why excuses are expensive. Not because they ruin one day, because they slowly damage your relationship with yourself. Think carefully about that. The relationship you have with yourself determines the quality of every other relationship in your life. If you cannot trust yourself, every challenge feels bigger. Every opportunity feels riskier. Every dream feels further away. Build self-trust. Protect it. Strengthen it every day. That's the key. There is an important difference between people who merely wish to change and people who actually transform. Listen carefully. The first person says, I want to become disciplined. The second person says, I am someone who shows up. The words are similar. The mindset is completely different. The first statement describes a hope. The second describes an identity. Hope waits. Identity acts. Hope depends on emotion. Identity depends on behavior. Hope asks, will I feel motivated today? Identity asks, what does someone like me do next? That question changes everything. Suppose someone offers you a cigarette after you've quit smoking. One person replies, I'm trying to quit. Another replies, I don't smoke. Which identity is stronger? The second. Because they are no longer describing a temporary goal. They are describing who they believe they are. Apply that principle everywhere. Don't say, I'm trying to exercise. Say, I take care of my body. Don't say, I'm trying to save money. Say, I manage money wisely. Don't say, I'm trying to become productive. Say, I finish important work every day. Most importantly, stop saying, I want to become disciplined. Instead say, I am someone who shows up. Repeat those words. I am someone who shows up. Again, I am someone who shows up. Not when life is easy, when life is difficult. Not when motivation is high, when motivation disappears, not when people are watching, when nobody notices. That is real identity. Remember, every morning you wake up with another opportunity to cast a vote. One decision, one habit, one promise kept, another vote. Eventually, the evidence becomes overwhelming. You no longer need to convince yourself that you're disciplined. Your daily actions have already proven it. People may someday admire your achievements, but your greatest achievement will never be a trophy, a title, or a bank account. It will be becoming someone you can completely trust, someone who keeps their word, someone who finishes what they begin, someone who shows up, again, and again, and again. Because identity is never built in one extraordinary moment. It is built through thousands of ordinary moments repeated with extraordinary consistency. That is the life you are creating. One decision at a time, one habit at a time, one day at a time. You have now discovered that lasting discipline is not simply about completing tasks. It is about becoming a different person. Every repeated action is shaping your identity, whether you realize it or not. But once you know who you are, the next challenge is learning to stay committed even when your emotions tell you to stop. Chapter 7. Make consistency stronger than emotion. Your emotions are real, but they are not reliable. That may be one of the most important lessons you ever learn. Some mornings you wake up feeling unstoppable. Everything feels possible. Your energy is high. Your confidence is strong. Working feels easy. Then the next morning arrives. Nothing has changed outside, but everything feels different inside. You feel tired, distracted, unmotivated. Doubt begins to whisper. Suddenly, the same goal that excited you yesterday feels heavy today. What happened? Your emotions changed. That is what emotions do. They move, they rise, they fall. They cannot stay in one place. If your discipline rises and falls with them, your future will never become stable. That's the key. You have a choice. You can build your life on temporary feelings, or you can build your life on permanent principles. One foundation constantly shifts. The other becomes stronger every year. Most people never realize how much control they have surrendered to emotion. Listen carefully to the language people use. I don't feel like exercising. I don't feel inspired today. I don't feel ready. I don't feel confident. I don't feel productive. Notice something. Every sentence begins with the same words. I don't feel. Feelings become commands, and without realizing it, people obey. Day after day, year after year. Eventually, they look back and wonder why nothing changed. Nothing changed because they gave temporary emotions permanent authority. Do not make that mistake. Feelings are information. They are not instructions. Read that again. Feelings are information. They are not instructions. You may feel tired. That does not mean you should quit. You may feel afraid. That does not mean you should stop. You may feel discouraged. That does not mean your progress has disappeared. Emotions describe your current state. They do not define your future. Your actions do. That's the key. Think about the weather. Some days are bright and sunny. Others are cold and stormy. No intelligent person expects perfect weather every day of the year. Yet many people expect perfect emotional weather before they begin working. Imagine a farmer refusing to plant crops because today is cloudy. Imagine a pilot refusing to fly because the wind is stronger than usual. Imagine a surgeon refusing to perform an operation because they woke up feeling uninspired. It sounds ridiculous. Professionals understand something powerful. The mission matters more than the mood. That is why they continue. Your goals deserve the same respect. Stop asking, "How do I feel today?" Start asking, "What needs to be done today?" That question shifts your attention away from emotion and toward responsibility. Responsibility creates consistency. Consistency creates results. Results eventually create confidence, not the other way around. Consider an athlete preparing for the biggest competition of their career. People see the medal. They see the celebration. They see the victory. What they never see are the mornings when the athlete wanted to stay in bed, the days when every muscle ached, the evenings when doubt became louder than confidence. Champions experience those emotions too. The difference is simple. They refuse to let emotion decide whether they train. Training is not optional. Training is who they are. That identity protects them when motivation disappears. The same principle applies to entrepreneurs. Some mornings they wake up excited about building their business. Other mornings every problem feels overwhelming. Customers leave. Projects fail. Money becomes tight. Fear grows. If they only worked when they felt optimistic, their business would never survive. Instead, they continue making calls, continue solving problems, continue serving people, continue showing up. Their emotions fluctuate. Their commitment does not. Writers experience this reality every day. Many people imagine that authors wait for brilliant inspiration before writing. Professional writers know better. Some days, every sentence flows naturally. Other days, every word feels like lifting a heavy stone. They write anyway, because they understand an important truth. Inspiration often arrives after work begins, not before. Action creates emotion far more often than emotion creates action. Remember that. If you wait until you feel like working, you may wait forever. If you begin working, motivation often joins you halfway through. Motion changes emotion. That is why the hardest step is usually the first one. Once movement begins, resistance begins to disappear. You have experienced this yourself. Think about a day when you didn't want to exercise. You almost skipped it, but somehow you started. 5 minutes later, you felt better. By the end of the workout, you were grateful you continued. What changed? Your emotions followed your actions, not the reverse. The same happens with reading, working, studying, cleaning, learning, leading. Beginning is often the cure for hesitation. That's the key. Many people spend years trying to control every emotion. That is impossible. You cannot control every feeling. You can control your response. That is where your power lives. Courage is not the absence of fear. Discipline is not the absence of laziness. Consistency is not the absence of discouragement. It is action despite those emotions. That distinction changes everything. Strong people are not emotionally different. They are behaviorally different. They feel fear. They move anyway. They feel doubt. They continue anyway. They feel discomfort. They show up anyway. That is why they become extraordinary. Not because they have fewer emotional storms, because they built stronger anchors. Your routine is that anchor. Your commitment is that anchor. Your identity is that anchor. Feelings come and go. Habits remain. Results follow habits. Repeat those words. Feelings come and go. Habits remain. Results follow habits. Again. Feelings come and go. Habits remain. Results follow habits. Never allow a temporary emotion to make a permanent decision. A difficult morning should not determine an entire year. One disappointing day should not cancel an important dream. One emotional conversation should not destroy years of progress. Pause before reacting. Ask yourself, will this feeling still control me next week? Most of the time, the answer is no. Then, why allow it to control today's actions? This is how emotionally mature people think. They acknowledge their emotions without surrendering to them. They respect their feelings, but they obey their values. Values outlast moods. Principles outlast impulses. Purpose outlasts comfort. That is why they continue moving when others stop. Imagine two people standing at the bottom of a mountain. The first climbs only when the weather is perfect. The second climbs whenever it is safe enough to continue. After 1 year, who reaches the summit? The answer is obvious. Life rewards those who continue, not those who wait. The greatest victories often belong to the person who simply refused to stop on ordinary, difficult days. Not because those days were exciting, because those days mattered. Character is not revealed on easy days. Character is revealed on inconvenient days, on stressful days, on boring days, on lonely days. Those are the moments that quietly shape your future. Every time you choose discipline over emotion, you strengthen a part of yourself that cannot be purchased. You become calmer, stronger, more dependable, more resilient. Eventually, you stop asking, "Do I feel like showing up today?" Because that question no longer matters. The only question that remains is, "Who am I?" And if your answer is, "I am someone who shows up," then today's emotions lose their power. Because identity has become stronger than feeling. That is the goal. That is real freedom. Not freedom from difficult emotions. Freedom from being controlled by them. You now understand that emotions are temporary, but discipline can become permanent. The people who accomplish extraordinary things are not driven by constant inspiration. They are guided by consistent action. Once your habits become stronger than your moods, you unlock another level of growth. But there is one more promise that must be protected above all others. The promise you make to yourself. Chapter 8. Protect the daily promise. You made yourself. Every promise matters. But there is one promise that matters more than all the others. The promise you make to yourself. Most people think integrity is about honesty with other people, keeping your word, honoring agreements, doing what you said you would do. Those things matter. But there is another kind of integrity, a quieter kind, a kind that nobody else can measure. The integrity of doing what you promised yourself you would do. That integrity shapes your entire life. Because the person who hears every promise you make is not your family, not your friends, not your co-workers. It is you. Every promise echoes inside your own mind. Every commitment is recorded. Every excuse is remembered. That's the key. You have a choice. You can become someone who trusts their own word, or you can become someone who constantly negotiates with themselves. Those two identities lead to completely different futures. Think back to the promises you have made over the years. I'll start on Monday. This will be the last time. I'm serious now. Tomorrow will be different. How many of those promises became action? How many quietly disappeared? Every broken promise leaves something behind. Not just unfinished work. A little less trust. Your mind begins collecting evidence. Not evidence that you are incapable. Evidence that your words cannot always be believed. That is dangerous. Because once you stop trusting yourself, every goal becomes heavier. Every commitment becomes more difficult. Every challenge feels larger than it really is. The relationship you have with yourself becomes the foundation of everything else. If that foundation is weak, every dream becomes unstable. Integrity begins long before anyone else notices. It begins in private. It begins when nobody is watching. It begins with the promises no one else even knows you made. Will you wake up when the alarm rings? Will you finish the page you promised to write? Will you complete the workout you planned yesterday? Will you read the chapter you committed to reading? These moments appear small. They are not. They are building or breaking your character. That's the key. Many people believe self-confidence comes from winning. Winning certainly feels good, but it does not create lasting confidence by itself. Real confidence comes from something much deeper: self-trust. Self-trust says, "I know I will do what I said I would do." That sentence is incredibly powerful. Imagine making a promise to a close friend every single day, then breaking it over and over again. Eventually, they would stop believing you. Not because they dislike you, because your actions taught them not to trust your words. Now ask yourself a harder question. Have you done the same thing to yourself? Have you repeatedly promised change without following through? If so, don't respond with guilt. Respond with action, because trust can always be rebuilt. One kept promise at a time. Every completed task strengthens self-trust. Repeat that. Every completed task strengthens self-trust. Again, every completed task strengthens self-trust. You don't build confidence by making bigger promises. You build confidence by keeping smaller ones. Promise yourself 10 minutes of reading, then do it. Promise yourself a short walk, then take it. Promise yourself 1 page of writing, then finish it. These small victories seem insignificant until you understand what they are actually creating. They are creating evidence. Evidence that says, "I keep my word." That evidence changes how you see yourself, and how you see yourself changes how you behave. This is why tiny commitments are so powerful. Most people fail because they begin with promises too large to sustain. I'm going to exercise 2 hours every day. I'm going to completely change my life this week. I'm never going to make another mistake. Those promises sound exciting. They rarely survive reality. A better promise is smaller, stronger, more believable. I will walk for 15 minutes. I will read 10 pages. I will wake up when my alarm rings. Simple, repeatable, achievable. Those promises accumulate, one after another, until your mind begins expecting success instead of expecting excuses. That expectation changes everything. Daily promises create internal momentum. Momentum is not only physical, it is psychological. Every promise kept makes the next promise easier to keep. Every victory strengthens the next decision. Think of a chain. Every completed commitment adds another strong link. Eventually, the chain becomes difficult to break. Now imagine the opposite. Every broken promise removes another link. Eventually, the chain cannot hold anything. This is why your daily choices matter so much, not because each one changes your life immediately, because each one changes the direction of your life. That's the key. Small wins become permanent confidence. A single workout is not life-changing, but completing it tells your mind, "I finish what I start." One morning of waking up early seems ordinary, but it reinforces, "I honor my commitments." One evening spent reading instead of scrolling through endless distractions seems insignificant, but it quietly says, "My future matters more than temporary entertainment." These messages become your identity, not through dramatic speeches, through repeated behavior. Keeping your word changes who you believe you are. Eventually, you stop saying, "I hope I stay consistent." Instead, you think, "Of course I'll do it." Why? Because you have accumulated so much evidence that consistency becomes expected. That is the hidden reward of discipline. Not just better results. A stronger identity. Imagine a builder constructing a house. Every brick must support the next. Remove enough bricks and the structure becomes unstable. Your daily promises are those bricks. Every kept commitment strengthens your foundation. Every unnecessary excuse removes support. One excuse may seem harmless. Repeated excuses eventually weaken everything above them. Protect your foundation. Protect your character. Protect your word. Because once your word becomes reliable, your future becomes reliable too. You have a choice. Will you become someone who makes promises, or someone who keeps them? There is an enormous difference. The world is full of people making promises. Far fewer are quietly honoring them. Become one of those people. No applause is necessary. No audience is required. Your integrity does not depend on recognition. It depends on repetition. Now let's talk about distractions. Every day, something will attempt to steal the promise you made yourself. Your phone will ring. Notifications will appear. Unexpected invitations will arrive. Fatigue will whisper. Comfort will negotiate. Procrastination will sound reasonable. Life will constantly ask you to postpone your future. This is not unusual. It is predictable. Expect it. Prepare for it. Because if you do not defend your routine, someone or something else will gladly destroy it. No one else can protect your future. Your family cannot protect it. Your employer cannot protect it. Your friends cannot protect it. Your favorite author cannot protect it. Your favorite motivational speaker cannot protect it. Only you can. Every morning, you become the guardian of your own future. Every decision either protects it or weakens it. Do not leave that responsibility to chance. Build boundaries. Protect your schedule. Respect your routines. Treat your important habits like appointments that cannot be canceled without an emergency. Most people fiercely defend meetings with other people. Start defending the meetings you schedule with yourself. Those appointments matter just as much, perhaps even more. Because every time you honor one of them, you strengthen your relationship with the person you will spend your entire life with. Yourself. Keep your promise today. Say it again. Keep your promise today. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Today. When the alarm rings, keep your promise today. When excuses begin speaking, keep your promise today. When distractions compete for your attention, keep your promise today. When nobody would know if you skipped the work, keep your promise today. Because you would know. And that knowledge shapes your identity more than anyone else's opinion ever could. Every promise you keep is another vote for the person you are becoming. Every promise honored strengthens your confidence. Every promise fulfilled builds momentum. One day, people will admire your discipline. They will wonder how you became so dependable. They will assume you possess unusual determination. You will know the truth. You simply learned to protect one thing above everything else: your word. And once your word became unbreakable, your future followed. You have now learned that self-respect is earned through the promises you keep when no one else is watching. Every commitment honored strengthens your identity, builds unshakable confidence, and creates momentum that carries you forward. But there is one final force that multiplies every promise, every habit, and every disciplined action over the years. Chapter 9. Let time become your greatest advantage. Time does not care how talented you are. It does not care how intelligent you are. It does not care how ambitious your goals sound. Time only responds to one thing: Repetition. Every day, time quietly asks the same question. What are you repeating? Not what you hope, not what you intend, not what you promise. What are you repeating? Because whatever you repeat, time will multiply. That is one of the most powerful laws of life. That's the key. You have a choice. You can work with time, or you can fight against it. One decision creates extraordinary results. The other creates endless frustration. Most people underestimate time because they focus on today. Successful people respect time because they focus on years. Think about the tallest tree in a forest. It did not become enormous because it grew faster than every other tree in a single afternoon. It simply kept growing while weaker trees stopped. Growth rewarded patience. Life follows the same principle. Patient people often look average in the beginning. Impatient people often look impressive in the beginning. But beginning is not the finish line. The finish line belongs to those who continue. Imagine two friends deciding to improve their health. The first person wants dramatic results. They exercise intensely for 3 weeks. They eliminate every enjoyable food. They expect a complete transformation within a month. When reality doesn't match expectation, frustration appears. They quit. The second person chooses a different path. They walk every day. They exercise consistently. They eat slightly better than yesterday. Nothing dramatic. Nothing exciting. 1 year later, they have completely transformed their health. Not because they worked harder for a few weeks, because they stayed consistent for many months. Patience quietly defeated urgency. That happens everywhere. The person who studies every day eventually surpasses the person who crams before exams. The investor who contributes consistently often surpasses the investor searching for the perfect opportunity. The business owner who improves 1% each week eventually overtakes competitors who constantly change direction. Time rewards repetition. Time punishes inconsistency. Repeat that. Time rewards repetition. Time punishes inconsistency. Again. Time rewards repetition. Time punishes inconsistency. Many people become impatient because they misunderstand how progress works. They expect a straight line. Real progress rarely looks like that. Most growth feels flat for a long time. Then suddenly, it accelerates. From the outside, it appears as if success arrived overnight. In reality, success had been quietly accumulating beneath the surface for years. Think about water slowly heating inside a pot. For a long time, nothing dramatic appears to happen. The temperature rises. 1 degree, then another. Still no boiling. Then, at the right moment, everything changes. The water boils. Did the transformation begin at the final degree? No. Every previous degree mattered, even though they appeared insignificant. Your habits work exactly the same way. Every repetition raises the temperature. Eventually, transformation becomes impossible to stop, but only if you remain patient enough to reach that point. That's the key. Now think about investing money. Imagine someone deposits a small amount every single month. At first, the account barely grows. The numbers seem disappointing. Many people lose interest. They stop investing because progress feels too slow. The patient investor understands something different. The real power is not in the first deposit. The real power is in the years that follow. Interest begins earning interest. Growth begins creating more growth. The account starts expanding faster than before, not because the investor suddenly became smarter, because compounding finally became visible. Your effort follows the same law. Every hour you spend learning builds upon the previous hour. Every workout builds upon the last one. Every conversation strengthens your communication skills. Every page you write makes the next page easier. Every difficult decision develops stronger judgment. Nothing stands alone. Everything compounds. Think about someone reading 10 pages every day. One day changes almost nothing. 1 week feels ordinary. 1 month feels modest. 5 years later, they have consumed thousands of pages, hundreds of powerful ideas, countless lessons, an entirely different way of thinking. The reading compounded. Now think about someone saving $10 every day. The amount seems tiny, almost meaningless, but the habit compounds, not only financially, mentally. They become someone who plans instead of reacting, someone who thinks about tomorrow instead of only today. The money grows, but so does the mindset. Everything compounds. Relationships compound. Trust compounds. Knowledge compounds. Discipline compounds. Confidence compounds. Even your reputation compounds. Every promise you keep strengthens the next promise. Every action supports the next action. That is why consistency becomes more valuable every year. The longer consistency continues, the faster results multiply. Many people quit just before compounding begins to accelerate. Imagine pushing a massive flywheel. The first push feels almost useless. It barely moves. You push again, still slow, again, again, again. Eventually, the wheel begins turning. Now every push becomes more effective because momentum has joined your effort. The wheel starts helping you. Your habits work the same way. At first, discipline feels heavy. Then it feels manageable. Eventually, it feels natural. Later, it feels effortless. Not because the work disappeared, because momentum multiplied the value of every action. Time became your partner. That is what you want. You don't want life to become easier. You want your consistency to become stronger. Because strong consistency eventually makes difficult things feel ordinary. That's the key. Many people ask the wrong question. What can I accomplish this month? What can I finish this year? Those questions are not useless, but there is a better question. Who will I become if I continue for 5 years? That question changes your perspective. 5 years of reading. Who will you become? 5 years of exercising. Who will you become? 5 years of saving money. Who will you become? 5 years of protecting your attention. Who will you become? 5 years of showing up every single day. Who will you become? Notice the difference. The focus shifts away from immediate achievement toward permanent transformation. You have a choice. You can chase today's excitement, or you can build tomorrow's identity. One creates temporary satisfaction. The other creates lasting fulfillment. Long-term thinking requires emotional maturity. It requires accepting that today's effort may not be rewarded today, that tomorrow's reward may come next year, that today's discipline may completely change your life 5 years from now. Many people reject this idea because they want certainty. Life rarely offers certainty. It offers probability, and probability favors consistency. The person who consistently improves has a far greater chance of success than the person constantly searching for shortcuts. Shortcuts often steal the very thing they promise to save. Time. Because after every shortcut fails, you must begin again. Meanwhile, the patient person quietly continued. The patient person never stopped building. Eventually, the gap becomes enormous. Not because they were extraordinary, because they stayed. Remember every chapter you have heard so far. You learned to stop waiting for motivation. You learned that small actions build extraordinary lives. You learned to trust systems instead of willpower. You learned to continue when progress was invisible. You learned to recover immediately after setbacks. You learned to build your identity through repetition. You learned to become stronger than your emotions. You learned to protect the promises you make to yourself. Now understand what ties every lesson together. Time. Time multiplies every one of those habits. Every day you repeat them, their value increases. Every day you neglect them, their cost increases. That is why every day matters, not because today changes everything, because today joins thousands of other days. Eventually, they become your life. Don't ask, what changes today? Ask, who will I become after 5 years of showing up? Repeat it. Who will I become after 5 years of showing up? Again. Who will I become after 5 years of showing up? That question has the power to redirect your future because it forces you to think beyond immediate comfort, beyond temporary emotion, beyond today's inconvenience. It reminds you that greatness is not created in a moment. It is created through years of ordinary decisions repeated with extraordinary faith. Let time become your greatest advantage. Do not race against it. Walk with it. Invest in it. Respect it. Allow it to multiply every disciplined choice you make. One day, people will admire the life you built. They will see the confidence, the strength, the success, the peace. They will think you were fortunate. Only you will know the truth. Time did not make you successful. Your consistency gave time something valuable to multiply. You have now learned that time is either your greatest ally or your greatest enemy. Every repeated action is quietly compounding into the person you are becoming, and patience allows that invisible process to reach its full power. There is now only one final lesson left. The lesson that brings every chapter together into a single identity that will guide the rest of your life. Chapter 10. Become the person who always shows up. You have reached the final chapter, but this is not the end, it is the beginning. Because everything you have heard in this audiobook has been leading to one simple truth. Success is not something you achieve. It is someone you become. You came here looking for discipline. You discovered identity. You came here searching for motivation. You discovered consistency. You came here hoping to improve your life. You discovered that improving yourself comes first. That has always been the real lesson. This book was never about creating better habits alone. It was about creating a better person. That's the key. You have a choice. You can close this audiobook and return to your old patterns. Or you can decide that from this moment forward, you will become someone who always shows up. Not occasionally. Not when life is easy. Always. That single decision can reshape the next 10 years of your life. Think back to where this journey began. You learned that waiting for motivation is a trap. You learned that tiny actions quietly become extraordinary results. You learned to build systems instead of depending on willpower. You learned to continue even when progress remained invisible. You learned to recover immediately after failure. You learned that repetition creates identity. You learned to become stronger than your emotions. You learned to protect every promise you make to yourself. You learned to let time become your greatest advantage. Each lesson seemed different. Each chapter focused on a different principle. But underneath every lesson was the same message. Keep showing up. That was always the answer. When motivation disappears, show up. When nobody notices, show up. When progress feels invisible, show up. When you fail, show up again. When life becomes difficult, show up anyway. The person who keeps showing up eventually becomes someone impossible to stop. Not because life becomes easier, because quitting is no longer part of their identity. Extraordinary achievement does not belong to extraordinary people. It belongs to ordinary people who refused to disappear. Read that again. Extraordinary achievement belongs to ordinary people who refused to disappear. History proves it. The greatest companies were not built in a weekend. The greatest books were not written in one burst of inspiration. The greatest athletes were not created by one perfect workout. The greatest leaders were not shaped by one speech. Everything extraordinary was once ordinary, repeated, protected, improved, again and again. That is the secret hidden behind almost every remarkable life. Not brilliance, not luck, attendance. The willingness to continue after everyone else became distracted. Most people underestimate how powerful simply remaining in the game can be. They think success belongs to whoever starts the fastest. Life usually rewards whoever finishes. Imagine two runners beginning a marathon. One sprints with incredible speed. The crowd cheers. Energy is high. Confidence is overflowing. But after a few miles, exhaustion arrives. The pace slows. Eventually, they stop. The second runner begins quietly. No dramatic start. No applause. Just steady movement, step after step, hour after hour. Eventually, they cross the finish line. Which runner truly won? The answer is obvious. The race belongs to the one who stayed. Life follows the same rule. Stay. Stay with your habits. Stay with your values. Stay with your promises. Stay with your vision. Because the longer you stay committed, the more extraordinary ordinary actions become. Showing up is no longer something you do. It becomes who you are. That's the key. Consistency is often misunderstood. People think it is simply another productivity technique, another habit, another strategy for achieving goals. It is much more than that. Consistency becomes your reputation. People begin trusting you, not because of what you promise, because of what you repeatedly deliver. They know you finish. They know you follow through. They know your word means something. Consistency becomes your character. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop searching for excuses. You stop waiting for perfect conditions. Action becomes natural. Responsibility becomes normal. Discipline becomes part of your personality. Eventually, consistency becomes your destiny. Think about that. Destiny is not created by one extraordinary decision. It is created by thousands of ordinary ones. Every repeated action quietly pulls your future in a specific direction. Every habit is shaping tomorrow. Whether you realize it or not, you're writing your future every day, not with dramatic moments, with repeated ones. Every day is another vote for the person you're becoming. Remember that image. A ballot box. Every habit is another vote. Every promise kept is another vote. Every difficult decision is another vote. Every excuse is another vote as well. The question is simple. Who are you voting to become? A person who quits when things become uncomfortable? Or a person who continues no matter what? Nobody else casts those votes. Only you. Every sunrise gives you another ballot. Every evening records your decision. One vote changes very little. Thousands change everything. That is why today matters. Not because today alone creates your future, because today joins every yesterday and every tomorrow. Together, they become your identity. You have a choice. Protect today's vote, or waste it. Life will respect whichever decision you make. There is another reason consistency is so powerful. It quietly changes how you see problems. In the beginning, Obstacles feel enormous. Missing one workout feels devastating. A difficult week feels overwhelming. One rejection feels unbearable. But after years of consistently showing up, something remarkable happens. Problems become smaller, not because life changed, because you changed. You become stronger than inconvenience. You become calmer under pressure. You become patient during uncertainty. You become resilient after setbacks. Discipline does more than build success. It builds stability. And stability creates freedom. Freedom from emotional chaos. Freedom from constant self-doubt. Freedom from depending on perfect circumstances. That is one of the greatest rewards consistency offers. Not more achievement, more peace. Imagine yourself 5 years from today. 2 different futures stand before you. In the first future, you continue living as most people do, waiting for motivation, starting and stopping, making promises without protecting them, allowing emotions to dictate your actions. 5 years pass, very little changes. Now imagine the second future. You show up today, then tomorrow, then the next day. You recover quickly after setbacks. You trust your systems. You protect your routines. You honor your word. You stay patient. You keep repeating small actions. 5 years pass. Would your life look different? Without question. Your health would be different. Your confidence would be different. Your finances would be different. Your relationships would be different. Your mind would be different. Most importantly, you would be different. That transformation does not begin in 5 years. It begins today. This moment. With your next decision. Because every extraordinary future begins with one ordinary day lived correctly. Never underestimate the power of today's choice. Today's workout may not transform your body. Today's page may not transform your knowledge. Today's savings may not transform your finances. Today's disciplined decision may not transform your life. But today's action joins tomorrow's. Tomorrow joins the next day. Soon, those ordinary days become extraordinary years. That is how greatness is built. Quietly. Patiently. Relentlessly. Now remember the philosophy that has carried you through every chapter. Success is repeated effort, not repeated wishing. Success is repeated effort. Discipline is daily attendance, not occasional intensity. Discipline is daily attendance. Greatness belongs to those who keep showing up, not those who occasionally perform brilliantly. Greatness belongs to those who keep showing up. Repeat those truths until they become part of your identity. Success is repeated effort. Discipline is daily attendance. Greatness belongs to those who keep showing up. Again. Success is repeated effort. Discipline is daily attendance. Greatness belongs to those who keep showing up. One last lesson. Never think that showing up is only about achieving goals. Showing up is an act of self-respect. Every morning you choose discipline, you're telling yourself, "My future matters." Every promise you keep says, "I am someone worth trusting." Every difficult decision says, "I refuse to become less than I can be." That is the real victory, not applause, not recognition, not success itself. The real victory is becoming someone you admire when nobody else is watching. Someone who keeps going. Someone who finishes. Someone who shows up. Always. As this audiobook comes to an end, remember that nothing changes unless you do. No chapter can replace action. No lesson can substitute for repetition. No amount of inspiration can outperform daily commitment. Your future is waiting, not for your perfect plan, not for your ideal circumstances. It is waiting for your next decision. So begin. Show up today. Show up tomorrow. Never stop showing up. Say it one last time. Show up today. Show up tomorrow. Never stop showing up. Again. Show up today. Show up tomorrow. Never stop showing up. Because one day, years from now, people will look at your life and wonder how you became so disciplined, so dependable, so successful, so calm, and so resilient. They will search for a secret. You will smile because you know there never was one. There was only one decision, repeated until it became your identity. You simply kept showing up, every single day. And in the end, that made all the difference. Everything you've heard in this audiobook leads to one truth. Your life is not transformed by one incredible moment. It is transformed by thousands of ordinary moments that you refuse to skip. You don't need perfect conditions. You don't need endless motivation. You don't need extraordinary talent. You need today's decision, then tomorrow's decision, then the next one after that. Every time you show up, you become stronger than yesterday. Every promise you keep builds trust in yourself. Every repeated action becomes your identity. One day, people will call you successful. They will call you disciplined. They will call you extraordinary. But they won't see the thousands of quiet days that made it possible. You will. So here's your challenge. When this audiobook ends, don't wait for inspiration. Choose one important action. Do it today. Then do it again tomorrow. Keep showing up until consistency becomes who you are, because the future always belongs to the people who never stop showing up.